Welcome to Weight Training 101. So I criticized that whole Pilates thing in my Blogilates Worst of the Fitness Industry video, and I've gotten a lot of questions so far about what type of weight training methods people should use and how to start lifting. So this video I'm just going to cover the very basics of weight training, what type of training methods you should use, what type of exercises you should focus on, and all of this information goes for both men and women. There's absolutely no reason for women to train any differently than men.
And make them sharp, like you're performing, like you're dancing, come on, boom!
So first off, the most effective form of weight training is low volume, high frequency training, which means you pick one or two exercises per body part. You generally focus on big, heavy compound lifts. You mostly do full body workouts, and you train your entire body about 3 times per week. The reason why that's the most effective training method is because, assuming you're not on steroids, muscle protein synthesis only lasts for about 24 to 48 hours after a workout. So it doesn't matter how hard you train your chest or back, you can absolutely smash in a workout and be sore for days. Muscle protein synthesis, the development of new muscle tissue, will only keep going for a day or two. So when you're doing high volume, low volume, high frequency training, you're going to achieve muscle protein synthesis for those 1 or 2 days, and then you're going to train immediately after that. So you just continually achieve the highest rate of muscle protein synthesis and muscle growth that you possibly can. You guys have probably seen big, huge bodybuilders like Ben Pakulski and even guys like Mike Chang that I've talked about. They do body part splits, so they do chest one day, back another day, legs another day, arms another day. Well, that's a completely ineffective training method, because when you're only training this one body part once a week, you have about 5 or 6 other days in the week where you're not achieving any more muscle protein synthesis. So you're missing out a lot of time where you're just growing absolutely no new muscle. The reason why guys like Ben Pakulski can get so fucking huge doing this is just because they're on fucking gear. When you're on steroids and you work out, muscle protein synthesis just increases. They get like an extra 3 or 4 days where they just keep growing new muscle. But if you're a natural lifter, you can't really get away with doing that. So low volume, high frequency training is definitely by far the best method to go for if you want strength and hypertrophy gains. Low volume, high frequency training also focuses on big, heavy compound lifts like the squat, deadlift, and rows. And those exercises are the best for building muscle and strength. You see a lot of bodybuilders do isolation work like leg extensions, and you may be able to find some studies where those isolation exercises get more muscle fiber recruitment, but it's not as simple as that. These big, heavy compound lifts, they put the most amount of weight across the muscle. They involve multiple muscle groups and across multiple joints, and it just develops more efficient neurological pathways to your muscles. And because you're using like a big set of muscle groups all at once, you're just developing more practical strength and coordination. So the big main lifts that you should be focusing on are the squat, the deadlift, rows, bench press, and shoulder press. And you should be squatting at least 3 times a week. You should be rowing at least 3 times a week. You should be benching at least 3 times a week. And you should be deadlifting once or twice a week depending on your work capacity. And I recommend usually shoulder pressing twice a week, because you do end up hitting shoulders a lot when you do chest. And you also don't need all of this accessory work. Squats, deadlifts, rows, presses, pretty much those lifts alone are enough to build muscle the way you want. There's no real added benefit for most people adding in many more accessory movements. This whole bodybuilder concept of, oh, you need to hit this machine or do this extra exercise to hit the muscle at this angle to make it grow more. No, that's bullshit. Like, squats are a big, heavy compound lift. They work the entire leg. For most people, that's all you really need.
Strong, butt, quads, and hamstrings right here.
But I'm not saying accessory movements are bad. I think they should just be added in as needed. If you have some lagging body parts, like your hamstrings are kind of lagging, then you might want to do some hamstring curls. If you have lagging biceps, then bicep curls. If your shoulders are lagging a bit, then lateral raises. Like, that's fine, but you should just stick to those basic big heavy compound lifts: squats, deadlifts, rows, presses. You also shouldn't be going to failure on every single set. Again, with all these bodybuilders you see, they train to failure on almost every single set, and they can get away with that because they're training the one body part just once a week. So it's very hard for them to overreach in the first place. And they're also on steroids, so they can just have a much higher training intensity than a normal person and get away with it. So for a normal drug-free lifter, I'd say use an RPE scale, so rating of perceived exertion. And I'd say generally stick to an RPE of 8 or 9. So that means if you're going to do a 5-rep set, you do the 5 reps, but it's easy enough that you can do another 1 or 2 reps. And as far as set rep ranges go, the general rule is if you're going to do more reps per set, you want to do fewer sets. So if you're going to do 8 reps in a set, you want to do 3 sets. And if you're going to do 5 reps in a set, then you want to do about 4 or 5 sets. And if you're going to do 3 reps in a set, you might want to do 6 to 8. And the set rep ranges that you'll be able to handle will come down to your individual work capacity, but you can figure that out once you've got your program going. And for basic beginner novice program, I'd recommend Jason Blaha's novice program. It's definitely good for beginning novice lifters, so if you want to get into weight training, I'd say check that out. I don't agree with the guy's diet advice, but his training advice definitely is good. And as for YouTubers that I think are good to follow who are natural lifters, I'd say Johnny Candido of Candido Training HQ and Bryce Lewis. I have pretty good reason to believe they're natural lifters, and I think they have relevant information for other natural lifters. So if you want to see some more detailed training advice, I'd say check them out. And of course, I have to mention Justin of Carved Up Vegan Muscle. He's a vegan strength athlete. He competes in powerlifting and strongman. He's got a really good training routine going. His diet advice is also pretty good, so if you want advice from a vegan lifter, then you should definitely go check him out. So that is it for my basic training advice. I hope you guys found that useful, and I hope all of you, ladies included, start going to the gym and making those vegan gains. And it's all about those big, heavy compound lifts, doing low-volume, high-frequency training. And don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.
What a relief. When will this poisonous product cease? This is another public service announcement. You can believe it or you can doubt it. Let us begin now with the cow. The way it gets to your plate and how.